All right, let's get straight into our first debate then, shall we? And we want your calls on whether you would be happy to pay more taxes to get better schools and hospitals. Now, the Prime Minister spoke for roughly 45 minutes yesterday at the Labour conference, but despite never actually saying that taxes are going up, one of the messages that the papers have taken from his speech is that tax rises may be on their way. If you look at the Times, this is the front page, it says, brace for incoming storm. Prime Minister signs off the Labour conference by telling the country to prepare for tax rises. Now, this is because Keir Starmer did warn of a series of trade-offs that the public may have to make.
And the truth is that if we take tough long-term decisions now, if we stick to the driving purpose behind everything we do, higher economic growth, so living standards rise in every community, our NHS facing the future, waiting lists at your hospital down, safer streets in your community, stronger borders, more opportunities for your children, clean British energy powering your home, then that light at the end of this tunnel, that Britain that belongs to you, we get there much more quickly. And look, I understand that many of the decisions we must take will be unpopular. If they were popular, they'd be easy. But the cost of filling that black hole in our public finances, that will be shared fairly.
OK, so do we agree that increasing taxes is going to be the solution to all the country's problems, Albie?
No, we do not. And first of all, can I just say, I thought Keir Starmer's first speech as Prime Minister was quite underwhelming, very light on policy. I think the only policy announcement was about homing veterans and also domestic abuse victims, which is very important. But in terms of a big policy offering for the British people, it was very light. I think the idea that raising taxes is how we solve the prosperity problem in this country is bonkers. We can't tax our way to prosperity. We have the highest tax burden in something like 70 or 80 years. And yet, how good are the public services that all of those taxes are paying for? Not very good. So why is the idea that raising more tax, even though we've done that for the past 20, 30 years, is going to lead to better outcomes in public services, better outcomes for the economy? It's not led to that. We've got to look at other things. Public service reform, supply side reforms, things like planning reform, childcare ratios that are going to reduce living costs for people and boost economic growth and grow the size of the pie that way.
Does Albie have a point? We've seen tax rises and seen public services go down at the same time, so maybe the last few years have proved that that doesn't work.
Yeah, there's this sort of weird dichotomy where we had zero investment, everything was cut to the bone during austerity, and yet our taxes are the highest they've ever been.
You want them to be higher.
No, I'm not given my answer yet. Never tell me what I think, Albie.
Women change their mind instantly.
Women don't like men telling them what they think. There's a word for it. I get a lot of it. So basically, what I think is that working people can't afford to pay any more tax. We are all squeezed across the board. Working people. However, we do chronically need investment across the board to make this a happier country to live in, to make everything work effectively. Now, we have a situation where the distribution of wealth has gone completely balmy. Even Georgia Maloney, very right-wing politicians in other parts of the planet are realising this. We have a problem. Billionaires, arguably, shouldn't exist. So I would argue for a tax on the super wealthy. You're talking £10 million worth.
The sort of tax that the Greens proposed.
Exactly. I was very much up for that part of the Greens manifesto. I completely believe in it. It is absolutely crazy that we are so disincentivised now to work, whereas people like that are literally going to bed at night and making passive income, buying up everything, which actually puts everything more expensive for people like ourselves because they own all the land, they own the housing stock, they own the businesses. And
That's
that is,
not
but
is it not fair to say that some of these uber wealthy, some of these uber wealthy, maybe they don't work, but the majority of them will be working. So you don't want to tax working people, but the working super rich, you're quite happy to tax.
Yeah, and also that's not on their working day. That is on passive income. And also, actually, they're not working. So the majority of the super rich, and there is a stat for this, have inherited their wealth. And there's great if you're uber wealthy, but why are we all sitting around going, oh, think of the billionaires? It is people even who get to like 100 grand, there's no incentivisation for them with our current tax structure to try and earn 150 grand. You might as well not bother. it just is pointless. You're not going to feel that leap in your income.
No one
because
is
of the
saying.
tax structure.
No one is saying think of the billionaires. What people are saying is the top fraction of income taxpayers pay almost 30% of all income tax in the
29%.
country. So I think this idea that the people with the broadest shoulders don't already bear the brunt of the burden is nonsense.
No,
and I mean, what specific tax do you want to raise?
So you're correct. They pay a third, but oh my God, they'd be paying a hell of a lot more if they actually played at a decent ratio. That's how rich they are. That's how mad the discrepancy
Why do
is.
you just
because
said you want?
If you look at, there was the factual evidence that somebody like Rishi Sunak, for instance, was paying the same tax rate when you take into account all the tax loopholes and avoidance schemes that are completely legitimate and legal as a nurse. That is absolutely mad. I can't say, right, I've earned X and I want to take that bit out and put it into this special little place over here where it doesn't get touched. And then if I do this and I do that, then I don't pay on that. And if I donate to this, then I don't have to pay on that. Why do they have all those loopholes? It's completely bonkers.
Okay.
And if you tax 1%, which is something that Thatcher did back in the day, a one-off wealth tax, you'd literally get rid of this black hole. And
Where
they'd still
have wealth
be
taxes?
absolutely
Where
fine.
have wealth taxes worked in the world?
You know what? They will work because they've done it in Italy, right?
They haven't
recently.
worked. Historically, they've not worked.
No, they have. So a lot of people fled, for instance, to Switzerland. At the moment, people in Switzerland are feeling really uneasy about the fact that the effects of climate change is kind of sneaking up on them and they're not getting any investment. And they are starting to go,
Okay.
well, hang on a minute, we need to change that.
right.
There will be a turnaround in thinking. It is ridiculous to have multi-billionaires while other people are starving to death trying to work.
A wealth tax is very interesting. I don't want to get totally caught up in it, but what's interesting is both of you are kind of on the same page when it comes to
Working
increasing
people.
taxes for working people. You just
Yeah.
don't think that's going to
No,
be
they're at
a
capacity.
viable solution. Diane from Northumberland, what do you think? Is it logical to think we could get better services without increasing the amount of money that's going to the government?
Well, it depends who you're going to increase.
So are you with Jemma then? You want to see a wealth tax?
I'm talking normal working people who work in the shop or sweep the roads or empty the dustbins. The multimillionaires don't give a damn because they're loaded. They can spend what they like, when they like. And then we've got the House of Lords, my favourite topic. They
What would
can
you like
get
to do there,
everything.
Diane?
Food for nothing. They don't pay any tax, national insurance. They can walk in and sign in and walk out and get, 130 odd quid?
I mean, Diane, it's a really fair point, and we could argue whether we need the Lords or we don't need the Lords. However, even if we got rid of them completely, we wouldn't raise enough money every year to be able to pay for the public services at a standard that we would want them to. It would take all working people, I believe, to potentially do that, or a wealth tax, or we're going to have to increase taxes in some sort of way. Do you think that's fair to say?
Well, I mean, how much more can you hammer pensioners?
Yeah. The other thing is...
I worked from 16 till 69. My whole family worked all their lives. There was not one of my family were ever on benefits, on the dole, didn't have a job,
Well,
and yet...
Diane, part of Keir Starmer's plan is to really, clamp down on benefits cheats. You must be supportive of that then.
I'm supportive of that, yes, definitely, because I look at them when I'm walking down the street. People have never worked all their life. They're living in free council houses. I don't suppose they pay any council tax. It drives me crazy.
I don't know.
But you could say that the uber wealthy are benefit scroungers because they get all those tax avoidance loopholes. That's a benefit.
They
isn't
also
it?
pay a lot of tax.
Yes, I know. And
So how are they benefit scroungers if they pay?
But wait a minute,
if they pay a lot of tax.
It's really disingenuous. They pay a lot of tax. Yes, they do. But are they paying enough tax? And also the idea that if
Yes.
somebody has...
What if I told you there was a way to increase economic growth and increase the tax take without increasing taxes whatsoever?
What is it?
Because there is a way.
And you're not going to say the Liz Truss scheme.
No, what I'm saying is we look at a serious supply-side reform agenda of reforming the regulations in this country that are making living costs artificially higher. Things like net zero tariffs, things like the planning regulations which
God.
make house building harder to do.
And safe.
No, planning regulations, greenbelt regulations that basically make it over-bureaucratic and over-burdensome
They are
to
looking
build
at that. Well, I
think
housing
they are looking at
to increase the number of houses
They are
and
doing
reduce
that.
costs.
They are doing that.
Yes, but we can go much further.
But the Labour government are doing that.
They're not going far enough.
Okay.
That's interesting. Diane, thank you very much for your call. Karen from West Yorkshire, what do you think? Do we need to increase taxes? Would you be happy to pay more?
No, I don't think they should increase the taxes. I mean, I remember back in the late 90s where we all supposedly paid an extra 1% on national insurance, and that was supposed to go directly to the health service. So if that worked, then we wouldn't be in the state that we are with the health service if that money had actually gone directly to the health service. So it's okay raising taxes for these specific things, but does the taxes actually go to the specific things like the schools and the NHS?
Well, it's an interesting point that you make, Karen, and actually you're treading into waters that I thought would already have come up in this, and that is something like the NHS. We see that monetarily it is given more money every year. Every year it gets more and more money. Now, whether that's more money per person, we can get into that, but it's given more money and it seems to continue to go downhill. I mean, there is an argument to say, and some people will call in and argue that we just need a rehaul of the whole thing. It's not managed correctly. We're not spending the money appropriately. And maybe rather than increasing taxes, that's what we need to do.
When the Conservatives released the figures of that they'd invested into the NHS
during COVID, yes, but before that it was going up.
They included the money that they were doling out for COVID contracts, which is all in the news at the moment. So that's completely artificial, because that's certainly... So you're correct, Karen. We want to know if we're paying X and it really is going to the places that we want it to, that's okay. And I do think, and I didn't vote Labour, by the way, voted tactically, but I think we need to give them a chance to see whether if they do accrue some money in, that they put it back into the right place. I have more faith that they will do that than the Tories, who seem to be just filtering off, siphoning off to their pals.
Okay, but you want more transparency then, Karen. So if you're going to pay more taxes, you want to see exactly where it's going.
Absolutely, and I think that's the way forward.
Got you,
definitely.
Karen. Thank you so much for your call. Margaret from London, how would you feel about paying more tax?
Hello?
Hi there, Margaret. What's your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are this. You know, I'm 73, going on 73, and at the end of the day, from when I was a kid, I worked from 15 upwards, paid my taxes, done everything that was required of us, of the same age, and we're paying, and we are giving billions abroad to other countries, which was right in the day, back in the day when people were poor in those other countries. Now those other countries are actually rising up and having great economies, and we're still giving and giving and giving. Now,
I get you talking about giving foreign aid to places like India who have their own space program. I mean, there are really significant areas of poverty in India, obviously, without making that too obvious. But you would like to get rid of foreign aid and use that money here instead of increasing taxes.
Foreign aid. I wouldn't like to get rid of foreign aid. What I would like to say to you is, maybe we could have a little recession of that, give a little bit of time in between, and use the money that we do give to those countries to our economy to build it up.
Yeah, I mean, it was reduced, I think, during Boris Johnson's time, and I don't think that's gone back up yet. It may do. But Margaret, thank you very much for your suggestion. Anne from West Yorkshire, taxes, do they need to go up?
Hello, yes. Well, I'm a pensioner, right? I'm living off my rather dwindling savings. And if I have to pay more tax, I would do, but only as long as I knew exactly what it was going to be spent on, not just disappear into this rather murky black hole.
It's interesting, a lot of people are incredibly suspicious of what the government is doing now. Why do you think that seems to be the case?
Well, because they're not explaining anything. They really need to lay out the truth.
And they didn't really ever explain anything in the past. What I'm asking is, why has there been a shift change? Do you think maybe the government's been seen to behave in a way that's maybe made the public lose faith?
I've never felt that we've been told the truth. We're being taken for fools a lot of the time. I think a strict program of what money is to be spent on would give people the incentive to put up with paying the tax, even if it was only for a limited period of time.
Interesting.
But we need to know where it's going to go.
Thank you very much for your call. Transparency seems to be the thing that most people would like in this. Thank you for all your calls on that topic. We are going to move on now.